See, sometimes we get stuck with not wanting to change, right? And so strategic leadership helps you embrace change. Now say that with me right now. Embrace change. Oh, you guys aren't even committed. Come on, 1, 2, 3. Embrace change. There you go. You're getting better. Still a little weak on part of it, but we're good. We'll keep moving on. I'm not going to keep doing that. So as we develop vision and things like that, strategy helps us to move forward. One illustration is what the next slide tells us. That strategic leadership is like a skilled captain steering a ship through changing waters, anticipating storms, inspiring the crew, and adjusting the sails to reach the destination. So strategic leadership is really always in a state of change because things change. It's the same thing. You came here today expecting some old guy to talk to you about something. You weren't sure. You're glad to be here. We're happy to have you, but you're not sure what you're going to get. And then all of a sudden, I'm here, and it's different. Now you have to change your perspective. You have to find a strategy to cope with this session. So you begin to think differently about how to complete this part of the workshop. Now, I am very much committed to you working through all of this, but I want us to look together that we're actually going to steer the ship together. We're all going to strategize and move through together. Now, it's going to look differently than I planned it because, like I said, I was only expecting 50 people. And now I have nearly 100, maybe even more. But the idea here is this, that we really want to look at the 5 keys, the keys to strategic leadership. Go 2 slides forward, please. Next slide. Again, so you can see that strategic leadership requires people to have vision. Now, what's vision? Some people think that vision is important to see things in a certain way, but really vision is about looking forward to where you want to go. How many of you want to stay in the same grade for the rest of your life? Anyone want to graduate? Oh, good. Only a few of you. Some of you don't. So everyone wants to, so your vision is to graduate this college. And so that begins to be a part of strategy. And you need to communicate that on a regular basis. You have to say, I want to graduate. Otherwise, you'll hand in papers. Do you ever fail? Have you ever handed in a failing paper? Never? So you had a vision to pass, right? And that's the idea. When we're talking strategic leadership, it's about having a vision to pass, to be somewhere different than you are right now. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to leave India, doesn't mean anything, but you will leave the place you're at right now and move forward. Okay? Now, if we were all standing, I would all have you step forward, but now I'm not going to do that because then it'll mess up the chairs, right? Right. Okay. And who has to set up the chairs afterwards? You do, right? Of course. I know that. Again, and there has to be an openness, an awareness of how fast change occurs. Change can happen gradually over time, or it can happen very quickly as a result of things being applied. So has anyone in here ever skipped a grade? You went from grade 3 to grade 5 to grade 7? No? In North America, we have that happen from time to time, and that change is fine as far as that goes, but there's all types of things that go with it. If you're a certain age, say you're 9 and you go into a group of 12-year-olds, that's a big difference. And you have to make changes. So strategy has to be there, and there has to be an openness for the change. There also needs to be a focus so that the attention and energy is on what is most important. What is most important for you to pass your grades? Is it the school? Is it the work? Or is it you? It's you. You are the most important. So when you're looking at strategy, you have to look at how important you are in the process of the focus. You can't have it. It doesn't work on autopilot. You can't just run it. You can't put a ship in the water and just let it run itself. You have to steer it, and you have to be the one who takes charge and control of all of that. Next slide, please. And it takes courage. It takes courage to act and push changes that you consider necessary. If you're failing a grade and you're the one that's most important, then you need to make up a you need to decide how you're going to move that forward so that you pass. You can't just sit back and say, well, I'll just hope that I pass. I get students all the time that say, oh, professor, you don't realize how hard I worked. I said, yes, but what you submitted wasn't acceptable. Oh, professor, but I worked so hard. But what about the quality of what you present? And that becomes part of this whole idea. You need to have the courage to make changes even when you think you've done everything. And then the final one is prudence. In other words, let's avoid gambling and try to minimize risks where possible. So that doesn't mean that you don't study, but that means you study every day, you do all your homework, you do everything you need to do to pass. Otherwise, you may find yourself with lower grades. How many like having a C in your grades? Anyone like C's? We had a couple that like C's. Okay. Okay. How many prefer A plus? I know it's very natural. This isn't a trick question. It's just very natural for us to do that. So as we look at this, we look at how it's important for strategic leadership in today's landscape. So what I want you to do now is I want you to be in groups, and here's how it's going to work. You're going to be in groups of 6, 10 or 12, these 2 rows, whoops, these 2 rows, these 2 rows, and these 2 rows, okay? And oh, I haven't forgotten about you. 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 3 rows, okay? You're going to get together and you're going to talk for a couple of minutes. You're going to talk. That means you have to actually turn and face one another, okay? And this, oh, I haven't forgotten you. So again, we're going to do the same thing over here, right? 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows. Oh, you're in 3 rows. And 3 rows, 2 rows, okay? So these 2 rows are going to answer, whoops, the next slide, please. Sorry. Next slide. How is strategic leadership different from traditional leadership in your understanding and experience? Okay, that's the question. Now, you're also going to ask, is there a difference? So you have 5 minutes to answer that question. So go ahead, groups. Let's see how well you are ready. Okay? So get yourselves gathered around. You can move your chairs. You can do whatever you need to, but you know the rows you're in. Okay? And I will be checking to see if everybody's working their way through this. All right? So go ahead. All good. Okay, there we go. Good, good, good. All right, now I'm going to get some answers from people. Who would like to be the first team to answer? Who wants to be the first team to answer? Right there. Okay. Tell us. Hold it. Yep, we got the microphone. Good, good. So give us how strategic leadership is different from traditional leadership in your understanding experience, and is there a difference? Go ahead.
So this is based on the perspective of all of us. So I think that in itself is a step towards strategic leadership. First thing, we feel like it's more productive and more efficient because it's not relying on just one person's perspective. So it gives a more multi-layered, nuanced perspective. Second thing, it leads to more transparency and openness because if it's discussed with everybody, and also if you're going towards a certain goal, which is not just in the leader's mind, but everybody, that'll be more transparent. And third thing is it's more effective and more efficient purely because everybody has a specialization. So when you're getting all these different specializations together, we can find the most effective route and just reduce the time required to do.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. So that's good. Give her a hand. Yes. Okay. So now let's look at this side of the room. Which team wants to share their perspective? Go ahead. Which team? Right here. Okay. Here we go. And here comes the microphone. And go ahead.
Greetings, sir. So, basic on our point of view, traditional leadership is something they follow the same rules even in any situation or environment. It's more like a bossy way. And strategic leadership is something they tend to realize what the situation is, tend to understand what the environment is, and set an example for every teammates and teams. So we think that's the main difference of traditional and strategic leadership.
So there is a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Excellent. Give her a hand. That's great. Okay. Dropping over to this aisle here. Do we have a team that wants to answer? Which one of you? Come right here. Look at that. The person who never fails. Okay. So go ahead. Here's your microphone.
Actually, there is a difference because what we feel, what our team feels is if strategy is different from every leader's point of view. And there are also proven studies that leaders those use our company, our team, rather than it's my idea, mine team, get more success than the traditional ones. So what we feel is in strategic leadership, it is basically the art of togetherness, which brings the output the best.
There is a difference, right? Okay. All right. Last but not least, I have way over here. Which ones in this group want to share? Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, here the microphone's coming. There it is, right there. See, I knew that she wanted to the way she was looking at me. She says, "Yes, it's me." Right? Right. Go ahead.
So, in strategic leadership, I think it is used for in a bigger organizations and in a bigger ambitions or in a bigger level because it needs in normal traditional leadership. It is taken by day-to-day activities and whatever we do in a day-to-day thing. But strategic uh, leadership needs a bigger one where it can be implemented and everyone could follow.
Okay, good. So it has a longer vision.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between regular leadership, which is day to day, and long term.
Yes,
excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Give her a hand. All right. So do not feel left out because this was our first volley. I look for volunteers. The next things we do, I will be pointing to your team and asking you to respond. I know. I know. It just gets crazy sometimes. All right. So go to the next slide, please. The role of cross-functional leadership really is important because it helps other departments lighten their load. So if you're in a big, how many of you are in physics here? Do physics study? Anybody? Sociology? Nobody? What courses are you in? You're in computer science. Okay, how many computer scientists are there here? Oh my goodness, almost all of you. All right, what study do you have? In history, how many historians do we have? All right, okay. So you see, what cross-functional leadership does is it helps the people who are in computer science work with people in history to make sure that the objectives that are needed for the organization are fulfilled. The historians keep track of how things went in the past. The computer scientists say, look what's possible for the future. And as they work together, they come up with a solution that is made by that interaction, right? So that's an important part, because now you don't look at computer scientists and say, nerds. You don't do that. And they don't look at you and go, stuck in the mud. They don't do that. They now look at, how does this person help my perspective move forward? How does my perspective help them grow, and how does their perspective help me grow? And so what happens is we begin to look at the opportunities the people around us present, and don't look at it as competition, or don't look at it as some type of bias that we've developed in our minds. We look at it as opportunity. So this is what cross-functional teams do. They improve the understanding of company policy to build corporate efficiency. In other words, everyone knows. Now, this is an easy one for you, because you all know the rules for Stella Maris, right? You know the school rules. You know what you can do and what you can't do. Well, in a company, the policies determine what's possible and what needs work and what you need to avoid. And then as you work together with those policies, you find that place that you can now lead forward with, and still cooperate with what you know is right to do, but make sure that it has new ideas generated by having all the different groups work together. If we look at the next slide, some of the key takeaways. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. Some of the key takeaways of cross-functional leadership are developing communication channels. Okay? So you learn to communicate with computer scientists. They learn to communicate with historians. What do you study? Publication, public relations. And then the two of you then talk to the public relations person, who then says, how do we sell this outside so that people understand what we're doing? You see, it's all about finding those connections and collaborating together with the strengths that make you who you are. You see, God didn't make you by accident. He made you for who you are. And it doesn't matter whether people accept you or not in many ways, but what's important is to begin to see each other as the true image of God that He has for you. And as you work together, you become more reflective of God as you work together, and as you find collaboration in the different strengths and different cultures and different functions you all have as leaders. Again, aligning strategic goals. You work together to find common ground. Aligning strategic goals is really another word for common ground. How many people can say common ground? Nobody? Common ground. I got a few. How many people can say common ground? Right. So when you're looking at aligning things, you want to have common ground together. You want this whole enterprise that you're involved with to find the most common ground between all of you. And again, so far, I've found computer scientists, I found historians, I found public relations. I'm sure there's more, but then that creates a more diverse group. Again, implementing agile project management, another term for that. Doing stuff with as little friction as possible. When you have an agile project management strategy, you begin to work and make the changes as needed. One of the things, and if I had a big board here, I would show you what's kind of called a check mark. And when we start a project, we start here. Then when we start a learning curve, we all kind of drop down a little bit. And then we build momentum together. And then that momentum builds us to the next learning curve. And strategic leadership is made up of learning, understanding, momentum. Learning, understanding, momentum. And when you look at cross-functional teams, you learn to do that together. And so these are some of the things that you begin to look at. Again, ties team strengths and skills together, we've already talked about, and it disintegrates silos. In other words, as I did at the very beginning, all the people who were computer science are no longer all on their own. They're no longer nerds, right? You're not a nerd, are you? No, not at all. No, you're computer science, right? Yeah, so you're not nerds. And you're not stuck in the mud. And you're not looking for anything that you can promote. You're looking to do what's best, right? So we get rid of all of those silos and we look at everybody as part of the process, okay? Now I've picked on them a lot now. I'm gonna have to pick on someone over here now. But this is the idea. These are the key takeaways of cross-functional teams. Also, if we go to the next slide, we're always dealing with real world examples. What are some real world challenges you're facing in your life?
We're all getting into new fields of study. Like some of us are first time in public relations, first time in history, first time in computer science, whereas we would have studied something more generalized or something completely different before. So that.
So you're coming into new study, new different things. And so what happens is, in order to work together, you'll have to rely on other people who've gone before you, people who may be in second or third year, people that are ahead of you. And you may have to look at what they're doing. So you have to look at different experience, different strategies. You look at other people. You can get together as groups and say, you know what, I'm feeling lost by changing my study, but what about everybody else? How many of you feel lost in your first year in study? How many felt lost? You didn't know what to do, right? And so you had to rely on other people. So the idea is to really achieve the results by working together with others. You can't just do it. If you do it on your own, then you're only alone. You cannot be alone and succeed. Success only comes through teams and through people who do those things. The next one says that peer learning and mentorship within cross-functional teams is important. I talked about getting the experience of other people, but what about mentorship? What would happen if, say, is this a 3 or 4 year degree program? 3 year? So what had happened if the third years met with the first years in each discipline and said, here's what to expect over the next couple of years? How would that change the way you saw your first year? How would that change you? Here, I'm going to just come back here and see if anyone has an answer. You look like you have an answer because you're looking away from me. Would a third year be good to meet with a first year? She's not sure. Okay. Let's try over here.
Like, that person was way different than the third year person.
Third year would have a different experience than a first year.
Of course, we have learned lots of things from experience, many more things. So like meeting the peoples. So I had a very great experience. Like the first year person was way different than the third year person right now.
So what could you tell a first year that would help them do better in their studies?
Yes. Experience everything so that you could get the highs and lows, but still you will be learning something.
So experience everything and learn along the way. Don't get frustrated, but you will eventually become a
Better person.
better person in a third year, right?
Yeah, of course you will be.
So you'll be a better person in a third year eventually, no matter what discipline you're in. So again, this means that third years, who generally tend to be the best of the best, are now investing in the first years Now, how would that change everything, right? What could you know about computer science that you didn't know in your first year? So these are some of the things that are to do with strategic leadership. Now, I have some Post-it notes at the back. And I want you to know, I don't know if you've been in any successful cross-functional teams. Anybody worked with cross-functional teams like I've described them? None of you? No? Not at all. Yes, you have. Okay, so I have one person, two people, three people. I feel like I'm an auctioneer now. Do I have four? Do I have four? No, okay. So what we'll do here is I'm gonna skip this exercise because we're gonna go somewhere else, okay? I want you to begin to think about the things that we've just shared in your teams. And I want you to identify, whoops, wrong one. Sorry about that. Next one. Yeah, what I want you to do is using this, next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, and there. What I want you to do is I want you to work in your teams again. And I want you right now to talk about how you could best communicate strategy, establish common goals, build trust and collaboration, adapt and learn, align incentives and rewards, and review and refine your goals as a team as you move to the future, as you work together in your different disciplines. And are you in history too? Are you history? Which are you? Your tourism. Well, look at this. We have tourists, we have historians, and we have computer science right in one group. So you can talk about how you would communicate all that strategy to each of the different disciplines here in each group. We got that? We good? Okay, you got 5 minutes. You know the groups you were in. Repeat, okay? So 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows. Talk about this. You got 5 minutes to look at these 6 things, okay? We good? And how will you make public relations out of that? She's going to. Okay, got it. There you go. Yes. Yep. How you would all work together as cross-functional team. So how would you communicate the strategy? How would you communicate together to make it best for all of you? How would you establish some common goals for each other so you knew where you were going? How would you build trust and collaboration, not just having the computer people do all the work and everyone else sit back? So how would you do that? How would you adapt and learn some of the different ideas that are going to come out of each discipline? How would you align incentives? What would be good ways to prove that you were getting where you wanted to get? And how would then review and refine as necessary? So it's a very open, it's not this. The questions are there, but the possibilities are yours. That help? That help? Didn't help? Okay, all right. I have to get used to that. In Canada, we go, yeah. Here we put this. I just have to get it up to do it, okay? But thank you. That's fine. All good. I just see you're alone, that's all. Everyone else is together. So, okay, that's all. No problem. Do what you've decided and refine it as necessary. So you may make some changes after you've made the decision, right? That's all. Everything, because change happens, everything is open to review. So no matter what you decide, you can always look at it a second time and say, let's change this or this to make you go forward easier. That help? Okay, good. Okay, there we have, that's a 5-minute quick. I know it's very quick, but I want to start with just picking on one team. This team was so good the first time that I'm actually going to go right to the back here and check on this team. What did you come up with? You need another 5 minutes. All right, you got 5 minutes. Okay, go ahead. 5 more minutes. Keep the discussion going.
3:15. Because we started late. All of us.